Hello, everybody. What is going on? So good to see everyone as I get myself in here. It is hump day, I believe that is correct. I think. But any case, so good to see everyone. I'm going to speak favor over us all. You know, that spear of protection, nothing missing, nothing broken. Make that your reality, and you'll be able to be one of the few who say you have found something. I'm going to talk on that this week as well. But today, by the way, hello everyone in the chat room. Much love. I am excited to have Ryder Lee back, and I did a show with Ryder on Saturday. Check the link below. Make sure to subscribe. And it was about Ryder's series on cults. And it was, and Ryder will talk more about that here in a second, but it got me to go back and revisit something that I know very personally about. And it's something that we don't talk a lot about because they don't want you to talk about it, but we're going to be talking about blood cults, along with a few other detours along the way. So strap in. If you got them, smoke them, pass them around, don't bogart. And whatever your libation will be of the time, because some people are watching us at night, some people in the morning. Do whatever it makes you feel good. So I'm back with my good friend and buddy, Ryder Lee. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Wayne. Thanks so much. It's an honor and a privilege to be back on your show. Thanks for having me on. And things are getting wild out here, Wayne. The Mexican government's releasing fake alien bodies. The United States is bringing out a mentally ill patient to testify in front of Congress about UFOs and alien bodies. And then the Mexican government was just like, oh, look, we got to one up the United States. We'll just wheel out some extraterrestrial bodies for everyone to see. It's wild.
Well, I'm going to show the picture, Ryder, and you're going to do a whole show on this. How fortuitous in the timing, it's like you've been in this deep. So this is the supposed alien, right?
Yes, that is the supposed alien that the Mexican government wheeled out yesterday. And it turns out that this gentleman named Jaime Maussan has been trying to, he tried to do this back in 2018. And Brian Forrester, which he's, I'm not sure if his exact title, but he's an archaeologist, and he's done a lot of study on a lot of these elongated skulls from Peru and Paracas, Peru. And this is supposedly from Peru, these two extraterrestrial bodies that Jaime Maussan wheeled out in front of the Mexican Congress yesterday. And they're the Peru mummies from 2018 that Brian Forrester said were false and fake, that they used plaster to cover the bodies. They mixed in animal bone along with human bone, and then they took one of the elongated skulls, like a legit elongated skull, and then put it on top of the bone. They removed fingers from the human and created more joints to make it look like they only had 3 fingers and 3 toes. And then they put that weird plaster that you see is kind of like mummified.
Yeah.
And then they put that plaster all over the body of it to cover up the alterations that they made to the body.
I get the feeling of, I've seen this in the movies. This is E.T.
Yes.
Did he phone home? But when I'm looking at it, I'm going, that's strangely familiar, and I'm going, well, damn, that looks like E.T.
Yeah, it looks almost identical to E.T.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was my first thoughts too. And then it also kind of looks like a sandcastle as well. Like
it's got that feel, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like if you touched it, it would just
disintegrate. Yeah, you could just take your hand right through it like a sandcastle. But yeah, this guy that wheeled this out. And another thing that's interesting, and I'm going to be talking about this later on this evening with a gentleman from Mexico that knows a lot more about it, but he's talking about how in Mexico, in Congress, whenever you're given a congressional hearing or congressional testimony in Mexico, there's not any, you're not under oath. Like you don't do anything under oath. So it's not like in the United States in the UFO hearings that we had.
No
Here.
consequences if you be fooling everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's it. Friday. Is that right?
What is it?
Friday, you're going to be doing a show on this?
Oh no, today. I'm going to be doing
Today.
it this afternoon. Yeah.
All right. What time? Let everyone know.
Will be 4 p.m. Mountain Time, so it'll be 6 p.m. EST.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll tune in and check it out. That's weird. I mean, but
Yeah.
you and I were talking prior going live that, is this part of an agenda? Is this part of the soft pedal disclosure?
I think that's what's happening. And the gentleman that I'm going to bring on the show for a discussion later on today, he said the almost exact same thing, because that was one of my questions for him. I'm like, why would the Mexican government intentionally roll out fake extraterrestrial bodies? And he said, well, it's for an agenda. It's what you guys in the United States would call a psychological operation.
Feels it.
And I was like, well, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, that would be the only reason. And I think that there was a lot of heat brought down from the United States UFO congressional hearing, because Dave Grush going up there and talking about that the government has crashed retrieval craft and non-biological human entities that came along with that craft. And then people were like, well, where's the proof? Where's the evidence? Show us the evidence. You're just talking about stories. You're talking about more regurgitated stories that's been passed through the community forever now. And I think that they were like, okay, well, we'll just we'll get them this time, and we'll wheel out some fake extraterrestrial bodies to get everybody all excited about it. But it's important to get out ahead of this stuff, and this gentleman that wheeled out these bodies is a known hoaxer and a fraudster in Mexico.
What a head trip. I mean, back in my day when I was in my youth, when you would meet someone who was a manipulator, you would tell them, that's just a head trip. Why? You don't have to do it that way. I mean, and it messes with people's psyche.
Yeah.
I mean, you look in one extreme on this, Ryder. It's that, so if ET is real, if there are other non-human, non-terrestrial, biological beings, that begins the collapse theory. Because the belief here in America is that Americans are very soft. They can't handle reality, and thus why supposedly the UFO cover-up. Because as I believe Eisenhower was quoted, no, excuse me, it was Truman. It was Truman who is reportedly saying that if this gets out, God is dead.
Yeah, then
there was also going to allow that.
There was also a fake document that came out. I can't remember the name of it, but it listed all the reasons why extraterrestrials will never be revealed. And one of those things was that it would destroy the current belief systems of the United States and in turn the world. But it turns out that that was a huge fake document. See, my thing is that
another fake.
If extraterrestrials are real and they exist and they have physical bodies, and we have real physical extraterrestrial bodies, why wouldn't they just present those? Why would they have to fake something in order to get people to believe? Because literally everyone was jumping up in the air yesterday. I was one of the only dissenting voices, along with a few other people that I knew, because I had seen it before. It happened in 2018. The same guy tried to pull the exact same thing in 2018 with these fake alien bodies.
I was
And
completely oblivious. I didn't even know. I was like, what?
and
Yeah.
that's the whole thing that's happening right now. And people want to believe so badly, Wayne, that they're willing to just throw away common sense and critical thinking on these topics. And that's another thing that the gentleman from Mexico that I was talking to yesterday, he was saying that it's for entertainment. That's what it is. It's entertainment. And I
Well, at
agreed
least
with
it's
him.
honest.
I agreed with him. I'm like, yo, like that's exactly right. That's way more entertaining than what we got with the U.S. congressional UFO hearing. Right? We just got
Yeah.
stories with that. At least with
Yeah.
this, they're wheeling out supposed extraterrestrial bodies, right?
Here's a little side thought. I have always wondered this. So, Earth has a certain atmosphere, certain gases, certain pressures. We call it barometric pressure. And I'm looking at these beings, supposedly, and I'm going, how are they existing without being crushed? Because their frames and their frailty compared to us is they look emancipated. And emaciated was the word. Yeah, they may be emancipated. But I'm thinking to myself, so they're able to breathe in the same gas that it's taken us hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years of evolution to adapt to. We used to breathe in the water. So what's your thought on that? I mean, that's my big problem. How are they exist? Because that then says that the universe, as we look out into the cosmos, means that I guess there's other in-class, using Star Trek, planets out there that have the same gases, the same barometric pressure, etc. Okay.
Yeah, that's my whole thing as well, Wayne. That really made me question the entire extraterrestrial hypothesis. Is that if they're not from the planet, then how are they walking around in our atmosphere, right? Our sun is completely different than any other suns around any other planets. Our atmosphere is different. Our gravity is different. How could they come from another planet and walk around here in the body that they came from their other planet outside of the solar system? They couldn't. There's absolutely no way. I mean, there's some parts of the world now that you have to get a shot just to go there to be able to visit, because the atmosphere is different there, and the oxygen levels are different, and you need a shot to be able to go
Well, you
there.
live in Colorado. I mean, in Colorado, I lived there myself for nearly 2 decades. I mean, you acclimate to, the high altitude. You
What I
got
think is
less oxygen.
what I think is really interesting is some of the old hieroglyphs of um, beings in what looks like astronaut suits, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I would think that they would have to wear. They would have to wear some sort of protective gear, like a sun visor. They would have to have different oxygen from their planet if they were here to be able to walk around. And I think there's something to that. There maybe thousands of years ago, there was some kind of being that possibly visited, but they looked like astronauts, like we would have today. Astronauts, going into space. They would have to come down here in some sort of protective gear because they couldn't just walk around in a regular body.
Well, am I thinking of Captain Kirk,
Yeah,
being down on a planet, it's like, hey, no problem.
yeah,
Wow, this gets deep. And it's all connected
yeah.
to our belief systems. And you have been doing a lot of research on cults, particularly attached to the phenomenon of non-terrestrial bipedals,
Yes.
ET, and how humans, and we do this over and over again, how we begin to build up these belief systems and these thoughts and these rituals. And it seems to be original, but when you really look at it, it's really nothing more than Judeo-Christian Abrahamic belief systems altered.
That's exactly right. God, Jesus, Satan have just been replaced with extraterrestrials. And that's exactly what's going on. And through the study of all these cults that I've done, I'm going to have number 10 out tomorrow. I'm doing UFO cults, Doomsday Cults, episode 10, part 10 tomorrow, and it's on the cult of But through the study of all these cults, like the cult of I Am here with Guy and Edna Ballard, a lot of the New Age belief systems of ascended masters came from
Well, there
them.
was a book called I Am, the creator and what have you, which was really predicated off these two, right?
Yes,
In their belief system.
that is exactly right. And the group taught that the mighty I Am presence is, God existing as each person's higher self, and they classified this term known as the violet flame, which is generated by the I Am presence that surrounds each person who calls forth the action of the Holy Spirit, right? For expression of mercy and forgiveness through the ascended masters, known as Saint Germain and Jesus Christ. And they also developed a theory called the diamond self, which was the idea that we are all connected, right? That we're all God and we're all
fractals.
one, right? Which would later be parodied by in the community with the law of one material, also known as the raw material, which came out several decades later in 1981. And that is just a regurgitation of Guy and Edna Ballard's diamond self from the 30s, 1934. In their books, in their series of books, they wrote 19 books together in 4 years before Guy died in 1939. But they also introduced a lot of other concepts too, which was twin rays, which is what twin flames are now today, right? The other half of your soul that you need to be complete. But this is where it started. It started right here with Guy and Edna Ballard from the I Am called in the 30s. And they also claim to have lived many past lives together, right? Guy claimed to have lived as George Washington, and Edna Ballard claimed to be Joan of Arc. And Joan of Arc is a really one that keeps popping up with a lot of these cults. The Love is One cult with Amy Carlson also claimed to have lived over 500 past lives, including Joan of Arc, Amelia Earhart, and she claimed to be the direct reincarnation of Jesus Christ. But many things came from this cult of I Am, this UFO cult. Many have copied and regurgitated their information as their own, along with the QAnon conspiracy, right? The QAnon conspiracy directly has its roots from this I Am cult, right? The whole QAnon conspiracy could basically just be replaced with Guy and Edna Ballard here, right? That Saint Germain is going to take over the government with the ascended masters, that they're the white hats, right? That Saint Germain is going to wipe out the banking families and put the monetary system back on the gold standard, just like Nasara Jassara, that all of the QAnon conspiracy, which QAnon is a cult as well, it's word for word almost the exact same thing, just from the 30s, right? But Guy was a fraudster. He conned many people out of their money, millions of dollars, from telling people to invest in a trust that was going to drain a lake in California to mine it for gold, knowing dang well that there wasn't any gold there. And he was indicted in Chicago, but then unfortunately died of a heart attack before it could go to trial. But Edna and her son were indicted on mail fraud charges, but then that got dropped. And then they were also sued by a gentleman who wrote the book that Guy and Edna plagiarized, which then also fell through because apparently you can't copyright channeled information. I mean, if you write a book and you claim that it was channeled through an entity or a spirit or an extraterrestrial, then that information didn't come from you. So therefore that information cannot be copyrighted.
Interesting. That's an interesting portion of that law. Because yeah. So, and then how were they connected to ufology? I mean, did they believe that there were extraterrestrials? What was their
Saint Germain and Jesus are considered to be extraterrestrials.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And technically, I mean, whether you believe the book or not, that's exactly what it is. It was a blending of DNA, so they say, that, of two extra beings from two different planes. But that, and that's the problem, because today there is, what was the doomsday cult with Hellbop when it came through? Who
was the Heaven's Gate cult with Marshall
Heaven's Gate? Yes. And that's kind of his whole thing, was that they were going to be raptured out of this by a mother craft that was in the tail of the Hellbot comet. I think that was the story, right?
Yes, and they claimed since their inception in 1974 that they were waiting for an extraterrestrial ship to come in and pick them up to take them to the next evolutionary level above human, and that they would be transformed into an extraterrestrial aboard the ship physically. But this is another thing with these cults, Wayne, is that they all inevitably change their ideology. Marshall Applewhite started out as a physical ascension.
That guy freaks me out when I look at that. It's like, man, drugs hurt.
Yeah, that's right. Well, he also, I'm pretty sure he was gay. He was extremely gay, and which there's nothing wrong with that. I don't care if you're gay. Who cares, right? But he was ashamed of being gay and having homosexual tendencies.
That's a conflict.
And then he also, it's reported that he actually admitted himself into a mental hospital to cure himself of his homosexual urges. And that's where he found Bonnie Nettles. Bonnie Nettles was a nurse.
Of course.
Was a nurse at this hospital that he checked himself into. But there's so many different stories about how they met. That's just one of them. And there's several other stories about that he was visiting a friend in the hospital, and then that's how he met Bonnie. But anyway, Bonnie basically influenced him because she was an astrologer, and she was super into the New Age and a lot of these occult belief systems. And she basically influenced him to make him believe that he was someone very special, that he was Jesus reincarnated, that she was Mother Mary reincarnated, and that they were the two witnesses from the book of Revelation that was going to bring about the apocalypse, and that they would die and then be resurrected. But they got out of that one, the death and resurrection one, because they switched it up and they said that, it wasn't a physical death and resurrection. It was a media death and resurrection, because there was two infiltrators into the cult that made all of their cult activities public, and it gained a lot of media attention. They were looked at as being like Charles Manson, the family cult in California. They were blamed for a lot of cattle mutilations, because that was a big thing in the 70s and in the 80s. And then they switched it. They were like, it wasn't a physical death and resurrection. We didn't mean that we were physically going to die and then be resurrected. We meant that it was a media death and resurrection. The media crucified us in the public. And then it's wild. But they then went underground a little bit, and they kind of stopped their recruitment for their cult. But then tragedy struck in 1985 whenever Bonnie Nettles died of brain cancer. And this sent shockwaves through the cult, because they looked at Bonnie Nettles as as someone that was really important, a prophet, a messiah, and they were taught that she was going to ascend physically and be raptured up by these UFOs into the next evolutionary level above human, and that she would be transformed into an extraterrestrial. And when that didn't happen, and she died physically and she didn't ascend physically, then Marshall Applewhite had to come in and change the ideology of the cult. And then you started talking about that it's a consciousness death, that whenever you die, your physical body dies, and then your consciousness and your it's a spiritual ascension and the consciousness ascension, which is what I've been talking about for ages now. But then
And people believed it.
yeah,
That's what gets me. People believe this.
and he got them all to commit suicide.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about Manson all you want. I mean, Sharon Tate and that scene. When you look at cats like Applegate, you look at people like Jonestown. It's I shake my head, and this is all supposed to be to relieve us of our pain. And again, the rapture, the transformation, the Messiah, the Savior complex, it all stems from, and this is how I've researched this, is that it comes from the number one blood cult in the world, and that's the Abrahamic belief systems, primarily Christianity. Christianity is the largest blood cult in the world, and had been known in modern history. And people don't think of it, but it's amazing, because everything that you've talked in research, Ryder, I'm pulling right out of the Bible. I mean, right in New Testament, primarily, Second Thessalonians. I mean, much of this rapture, that's where the rapture came from. The Paul called it the catching away of the saints. Yep. This whole complex of Jesus Christ being reincarnated. Well, that is not modern mysticism. That's actually a belief system that goes back to Dionysius. Dionysius was the first Jesus Christ, but we don't talk about that. But what's real interesting is that the cult of Dionysius was a blood cult. And we come forward, and if we could we just take a little thing? I want to talk about this, the power of this blood cult. I thought you might find this interesting. This is the priest's order and look at this, the rite of distributing Holy Communion outside Mass within a celebration of the Word.
Oh, wow.
This is heavy occultism all the way across. So in this, it tells you exactly how to do this. You have the greeting, and look at this, introductory rites. Mm-hmm. They're not, R-I-T-E-S is not R-I-G-H-T.
Yep, it's a rite.
It's a
rite of passage. Yeah, a lot of them have these kind of rites, especially the Order of the Solar Temple called in Geneva, Switzerland. They mixed in a lot of occult and Masonic rituals into their practice, and it's almost exactly like what you're getting ready to read here. Yeah. You look at the
votive mass of the precious blood. I mean, right now we're getting to it, and the blood is capitalized for a reason. Anyway, you go in through this, and listen, I've been in enough ceremonies that whether they were invoking a spirit or whatever, that this is exactly the same thing. You're doing this on a mass scale, the celebration of the Word. And then you got these options in here. We're going to be talking about John 6:54-55. The reason why that is so important, that is where Jesus says, in order to have life in you, you must eat of my flesh and drink of my blood. Otherwise, there is no life in you. Now, that is mind-blowing. I've looked into the Greek. I know why he said flesh instead of body. It's a bizarre thing, because it is, in fact, and whether you want to say it or not, but we just have to be honest here, this is a form of cannibalism.
That's exactly what it is, cannibalism, yep.
Yeah, plain and simple. You can make it holy, you can have the Holy Spirit and everything else. So you get down in here, and I thought this was the Lord's Prayer, the sign of peace. The invitation to communion. So you don't take this forcibly. You're participating in this blood contract voluntarily. Distribution of the Holy Communion may be accompanied by a hymn, period of silence, the concluding rite. And then as you read through this, it's bizarre because it says in here, you're actually partaking of the blood of Christ. Well, that's some weird stuff, man. I mean, you're consuming what they're saying is blood, whether it is, figuratively, metaphorically, allegorically, it's all the same thing. And now here, I wanted to bring out one thing, and then we're going to move on to the next one. Forgive me on this, folks. When you read this thing, it's kind of bizarre. All right, let me move on to the other one. I was a ordained minister, allowed me to give the rites. Now, this is one from Kenneth Copeland, and I wanted to bring this out, and then we'll take a little time to talk on this one. Give me 1 second. It says, and he says, communion to many people has only become a religious observance. It has a much deeper meaning than that. It says communion table is an emblem of Jesus' sacrifice for us. Jesus took the bread, blessed it, and broke it, and said, take, eat, this is my body. Now, it's interesting. They're using the word body, not flesh in here. He took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament. A testament is a new contract. That's what it means. Covenant, which is shed for the many of the remission of sin. He goes on to say, we take the emblem of blood and say, thank God we are delivered from sin. But the blood is only half of the communion. The bread is the emblem of Jesus' body that was broken. So this is clearly setting up for the consumption. And my point to this, and I'll get out of this, is, Ryder, from what you have found in the cults of UFO doomsday, it seems that it all goes to the same end, that we are going to get our butts kicked, you're going to die, and if you don't have the right ticket, you're screwed.
That's exactly right. And you talking about this eating of the flesh and cannibalism literally just brought up the cult that I was looking for the picture of it, because I have so many different pictures. I was actually looking for the Order of the Solar Temple logo that they use. It's the Celtic cross, which the Celtic cross was just in that document that you showed. But
Yes.
This called here Antrovis, cult of Antrovis, started in 1990 with Edward Malik here. He claimed that the extraterrestrials need our organs to fuel their UFO ships, right?
Oh, crap.
And he convinced some of his followers to mutilate themselves to give to these extraterrestrials to fuel their ships. And this is going to sound weird, and it sounds funny. And
Sound weird.
But more specifically, the organ that they like the most is the testicles. They like
pretty ballsy of them.
Really ballsy of them. They love you got some extraterrestrial ball snatching UFO around the universe.
Oh man.
Yeah, but that's not the only thing though, Wayne. He says that the evil extraterrestrial testicle snatching UFOs going around and abducting people and snatching their genitals. Those are the evil extraterrestrials. Those are the evil grays that are going around and snatching people's body parts to fuel their UFO ships. But that's not all, Wayne. The good extraterrestrials also need our organs to fuel their craft as well. So you have to freely give up your organs and freely give up your body parts and your testicles to the good extraterrestrials to fuel their ships. But if you don't, the evil extraterrestrials are just going to come and take them.
What the? Lilith, where are you when we need you the most? I mean, what the? Okay, I'm going to regain my composure here.
I mean, that's the exact, it's almost the exact verbatim of like cannibalism, right? They want to eat you. They
And it's
feed
blood.
your
I mean, there's going
organs.
to be bloodshed on that kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Lots of bloodshed. And then the cult actually got into a lot of trouble with the Australian government because a few people went missing. 2 people went missing. And the other thing about this is that this guy was a hypnotist.
wow.
And
Wow.
so was Guy Ballard from the I Am cult as well. He was a
Wow.
hypnotist too. So this guy, Edward Malik, from the Antrovis cult, he was a hypnotist, and he literally programmed his followers with the idea of these gray extraterrestrials. And this installed a bunch of paranoia and schizophrenic like mental issues within a lot of their followers. It would cause their followers just to like go crazy and go nuts. And there was one gentleman that actually went missing, and his parents thought that he was just a part of some stupid thing, but they noticed that his mental state was slowly deteriorating. And then he got on a bus to go to school, and then he never showed up to school, and he's still missing. Case is unsolved. People have no idea
They
where
never
he is.
found him?
Never found him. There's another gentleman that went missing as well. Little known information about him, but he went missing. No one really knows what happened there. That one's completely unsolved. But there was another murder that was attributed to the Antrovis cult, which a dead body, a mutilated body, was found in a river, and it was attributed to the Antrovis cult because his genitals had been cut with such precision, completely cut off, that and that's the belief system that this Antrovis cult had. So they connected it to Antrovis, but then they went and questioned them, and they couldn't find any of the connections. But the gentleman that was found mutilated was a part of the Antrovis cult, verified. So
wow. This is, listen, when I hear stuff like this, then I have to put in the study of history, particularly when we're talking about blood cults. You look at the church in the Middle Ages, and it was strictly, I mean, the blood, it freaks me out when I think that humans can get to the point to where they actually are demanding, executions. And I think about how they used to do for witches to get it. This is no different. I mean, I wrote as you were talking, ET actually are the modern day angels and demons.
Yep.
I mean, am I wrong in that perception, right? Or you've been digging deep into this? It seems like there is sex always associated at some sort of degree within all this blood cultism.
Yep, that's exactly what's going on. They've just been changed for people that's been disillusioned with standard religion and the Abrahamic belief systems. They've just switched it and changed it to make it more explainable. It's not something paranormal or supernatural anymore. It's physical extraterrestrials that have deceived humanity into believing that they were gods. That's what a lot of these cults have talked about. The Rael from the Raelian cult, that's what he claimed in 1974, was that the Elohim landed and visited him physically and told him that they were the real creators of humanity, and that they had deceived humanity into believing that they were gods, and that they were going to land their craft in 2035, and that he needed to create a landing pad and a center for them to land on. and him and his cult followers did that. But of course, that's not going to happen in 2035. All of the cults have made amazing predictions over the years. And I wanted to clear something up really quick. The Antrovis cult wasn't in Australia. I just wanted to make that clear. That's the cult of UM that I'm covering tomorrow. That cult is in Australia and is still an ongoing cult. But the Antrovis cult was from Poland.
Poland.
But this guy, Edward Malik. But I just wanted to make that clear. Try to,
thank you.
You
mentioned about testicles, but it's interesting because if you read the story of Abraham, what did God require of Abraham? His foreskin.
Yep.
Yeah. In fact, the story of Moses is that Moses's wife, because Moses had pissed off Yahweh, Jehovah, that she did the circumcision and threw the foreskin out for Jehovah to consume.
Perfect connection right there.
Boy, I mean, isn't it? I mean, you just connect the dots.
Yep, I didn't even think of that. That's it's amazing connection right there. That's exactly what it is. It has to do with the genitals, and we could get into
it does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about, and this is weird because if you read about many of the alien abductions, all of them report, whether it's male or female, sexual attacks. and yet I can go back and study of demons and angels, and as far back as the records will show, humans and angels or demons interacting in a sexual way because they needed, as the story with Lilith, she needed the semen in order to do her stuff. It's the same thing. It's a gross metaphor, but it's still there.
Yep, incubuses and succubuses.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yep.
And today it's because, having discussions like this, one of the biggest things that I regret as a Christian, I got to tell you, it bothers me that I partook willingly of this blood rite ritual and never having, I can recall having questions many times. I was in one particular church where I was sitting up in the balcony and I'm watching this going on and I'm going, and it hit me. I said, we're drinking blood here. I mean,
yeah, I always thought it was really weird. I only did that maybe twice my whole life. And I always thought that it was really strange.
Yeah. Thank you.
Why are we doing this? It doesn't make any sense, really. Like you're eating the flesh of Jesus Christ, and whether it's symbolically, metaphorically, allegorically, it doesn't matter. The premise is still there, right?
It's cannibalism.
Yeah, it's cannibalism, and which is another really interesting thing. Robert Stanley, he talks about how that was the first sin. The first sin was the eating of a child, and apparently, whenever Lucifer brought a child to Adam and Eve to take care of in the Garden of Eden, they didn't know what to do with it. And they ended up killing it, and then they ate it. And then whenever God came to Adam and Eve and was like, well, where's the child? And they didn't cop to it. But God heard it crying or something. It's according to Robert Stanley. But I thought that was pretty interesting, and it kind of ties in with a lot of the our discussion of cannibalism here.
Well, I got a book in my library. I should have brought it out. It's an old textbook. It's a research book, but the guy that wrote this was an anthropologist, and he stated that when simians walked hand in hand with each other, that when the first non-human simian separated, was that there was the small group that ate the brain of one of their fallen comrades. And it's when they consumed the brain of their own species that ate of the brain, they changed. They became enlightened. There was something that chemically stimulated something in their cranial capacity. And he contends that if you look into religion, all religions are based upon the same thing. It's the cannibalism, whether it's drinking of the flesh, whether it's eating the blood, either way, it still stems to our very early roots.
Yeah, it almost sounds like all chemical transmutation almost,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it reminds me of what Edgar Casey would do as well. He would that's where the whole thing of, taking a book and putting it under your pillow, that's what Edgar Casey did, and that's how he supposedly gained a lot of his knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
is because he couldn't read, he couldn't write. He
Yeah.
was basically for the lack of a better word, an idiot. And he would just take a book and he would put it under his pillow at night and sleep on that book, and he would wake up and he would have all the knowledge of the book directly in his head. And he would do channelings and reading. I'm going to look in more into Edgar Casey, because I think there's not a lot of things that have been disclosed, and Edgar Casey is looked at like as the mystic of the generation.
Yeah.
Everyone refers back to Edgar Casey, but there's a few interesting things, like whenever he would, depending on who he was around at the time, he would do readings for them and then recommend the person that was around to the things that was directly around them. So he was constantly changing up. He started out as like a medical, what people would call now a medical intuitive, like, or a medical psychic, that someone that was sick would come to him, and then if he was around a upper respiratory specialist, I'm not saying that that's true, I'm just making something up right now.
Mm-hmm.
If he was
Yeah.
up under a upper respiratory specialist, it would be an upper respiratory problem that the person had. And now if they were around a different kind of physician, a different kind of doctor, if he was around a foot doctor, right, then it would be a foot problem that the person that he was giving the reading to, you know what I mean? So he was constantly changing up his readings to make it to where for the people that he was around to be able to easily go to, which kind of seems like fraud to me. I don't know.
Well, I was a part of his group back in the 80s, and I guess the thing that I see it now, I see all of these versions, all these other type of belief systems, and through all of this, I look at humanity today, and it's not done us any good. I can't find anything that is doing us any good at all. We're heading headlong into oblivion. And they say that we should expect more of these type of things, that they're the first time they disclose that aliens are real, they feel that what's going to happen is that the Pope will help direct the belief systems that, that this is just part of God's creation and that we're a part of this universal family. And, you look at modern day New Age thinking, and it's the same thing. It's the Christ consciousness. It's the consciousness of love. Don't you understand that, Wayne? Yeah, I do understand it, but do you understand who the hell Christ is? You keep telling me that it's this love and this ascension, but all I see is that it comes from the grave of blood itself. It's soaked in blood, human blood, our blood. How am I supposed to deduct from that there's going to be love, humanity, caring for all? No, we're walking around blind. And Ryder, you've done the work on this, but it seems from what I've been hearing from so many of these cults is that they're looking for an escape.
Yep. They're looking for
that's what religion offers, is an escape.
Yep. And they want someone to come save them. They want someone to come and help them. And it's stoked in nihilism. The whole thing is stoked in a lot of nihilism, of hating this reality, to hating this 3D world, to hating the situations, that people are in, the hating their life.
Mm,
And once you get people to not like something or hate something, then you can come in and divert their attention away into something that is not real and is fake, right? And that's what I think is being done. We need to stop hating our reality. We need to dig head first into here and realize that what this is and what we're doing here. And once we do that, we can get rid of all of these false gods and these false prophets, and there won't be any need for any cults anymore, right? Because
man.
we will love it here. We will enjoy ourselves here. We'll live our life to our fullest while we're here, and that will literally diminish all of this religion and constantly looking outside of yourself for solutions to your problems, waiting for extraterrestrials to come and give you free energy and free technology and these anti-gravity craft that's going to make everything so much better. We can just make our reality better right now. We can do it,
Yeah, I keep on saying, you and I talked on Saturday, is that the Messiah complex. So there is supposed to be a Messiah who's going to come and save humanity. But my question is that what is he going to save humanity from? Well, if you follow the extension, we're all apparently contaminated with sin. So it means that we as a species are broken. We can't self-govern ourselves because we have fallen. Therefore, we don't meet the standard. We're not enlightened enough to find our own solutions. We need a God. We need a savior who's going to come down and, I guess, magically just, change you. And if he changes you, then it's not you. Whatever the Savior is going to do to you, it ain't going to be you when you're going to get finished with it. So here we are today. I hear, and where I live, Ryder, it's God and country.
Yeah.
We need the nation needs to go back to God. We need Jesus. We need Jesus in our school. No. What you need is some common sense, and stop relying on something you can't see and take responsibility.
Yep.
And in this country today, and we look at our government, the problem with society today is not the lack of God, not the lack of a make-believe, Jew on a stick. It is the fact that no one wants to take accountability, responsibility. I don't need religion to be moral. I can figure that out. I don't need a list of telling me how I've sinned to tell me how bad I am. I don't need that. So anyway, that's my opinion.
No, you're exactly right. That's exactly what's happening and what's going on. Like we take all of these beliefs and these ideas and they get regurgitated over time. They get turned into something different, turned into something new. And what happens when people, like what we were talking about on my show the other day, what happens when people get disillusioned with the new age? What happens when people get disillusioned with extraterrestrial visitors and these extraterrestrial saviors, right? What happens when that goes down, right? Do we revert back to Christianity, or do we create something else, create something new? I think it's just going to keep evolving, and it's just going to keep turning into something different that comes from the past, but seems very similar enough to get people on board with it. That's how a lot of these new religions and these new cults get developed. Is it's similar enough to what people already believe, but there's just enough of a spin on it and something new that can hook people in and keep people on the hook with this stuff. That's what Marshall Applewhite did in the Heaven's Gate call. He just kept everyone on the hook, right? And Demambro with the Order of the Solar Temple call, he kept everyone on the hook. Whenever one thing fell apart, He was caught up for fraud. DeMambro in the Order of the Solar Temple, he was creating mirages out of projectors and smoke and mirrors to create apparitions for the followers that were going to be a part of the initiation and a part of their rituals. And once his daughter came out and said that this stuff is fake, he then had to switch it up and made people believe that they were all reincarnations of really important saints throughout history, and it kept everyone on the hook. That's what's happening with almost everything in this community. That's what's happening with the conspiracy community. It's what's happening with ufology. It's what's happening with the New Age community. They just change things when things don't seem to work out, and they keep everyone on that primordial hook of, oh, well, maybe it'll happen sometime in the future. Maybe it'll happen in a couple of years. And that's how they keep them there. Oh, well, maybe the extraterrestrials will land next week. If you keep going out, waking up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. in the morning and lighting your campfire and hitting your tuning fork above your head, like Marshall Applewhite from the Heaven's Gate cult told his followers to do, maybe you can tune into the UFO's frequency, and maybe they'll come and pick you up and rapture you up into the next evolutionary level above human, where you can be transformed into an extraterrestrial.
Yeah. And, when you were talking, because we're seeing the largest single exodus out of organized religion. And you and I talked about this on Saturday in your show, that now you have this huge void. People don't know which way to go, because the thing about religion is the control mechanism plans everything out. Now, it'll mess with your head playing the mind games. But the thing about it is, you like that, because you can come together on one day of the week and you can join hands with everybody, because you get to sing, and sing lets the endorphins out. Because why? We're all believing that ET's coming back. No, it's not ET. We're believing that Jesus is going to come back. No, we're believing that Muhammad's going to come back. No, we believe, and it's all the same regurgitation, the word that you used when we started this excellent adventure nearly an hour ago.
Yeah, and to make the point really clear, Wayne, it's the exact same thing in with ufology, right? The U.S. congressional hearing happened in July, almost 2 months ago now, and people were really complaining about that, right? They were like, "Oh, Congress came out and said that it was an embarrassment and that they're never going to do another UFO hearing ever again." Right. And people were complaining. They're like, we have this guy up there that's talking about, for the lack of a better word, extraterrestrial craft that the government has retrieved, and that sometimes those craft come along with extraterrestrial bodies. Well, he has absolutely zero proof for that. Not only that, he's a mental patient. He got locked up in a psych ward before, against his will, for suicidal ideations and substance abuse issues, which I don't have any problem with that. Whatever. He retained his clearance. But the problem that I do have with that is that he did not let anybody know that happened to him. Right.
Yeah, that would have changed the narrative.
You should have been straight up and straightforward. And in fact, he denied that he had any mental health issues, that he wasn't locked up in a mental hospital before, and I believe 2018. Right. He lied about that on several occasions and tried to cover it up. But then the police report came out through a FOIA request that showed that he was locked up against his will for suicidal ideations and substance abuse issues, right? And everyone's making a huge deal about that they wheeled up a mental patient to testify in front of Congress about extraterrestrials and UFO craft, right? And then the Mexican government turns around and wheels out fake extraterrestrial bodies. And that's going to convince a majority of people, right, that it's real, and is keeping those people on the hook. And it's the exact same thing with the JFK assassination as well. Me and Jay Widener just did a show on this yesterday on his channel, and
I'm going to have Jay on, by the way.
Paul Landis, get this, Wayne. Paul Landis, which was a Secret Service agent 60 years ago, almost, it'll be 60 years in November, that was there with the motorcade in Dealey Plaza, came out and said 3 days ago that he planted the magic bullet, that he took a pristine bullet from the back of the limousine and put it on JFK's stretcher at the hospital.
So how did you get a bullet? How do you get the piercing head? I mean, someone had to have outside the casing. And there ain't no way in hell that you're going to send a copper bullet. Yeah.
But that's the thing that's keeping people on the hook with it. That's 60 years later, and that's a crime. He just committed a crime. He just tampered with evidence. He just tampered with an ongoing
accountable for it.
Criminal investigation. He just admitted to. A Secret Service agent admitted to a crime that he committed. He took a bullet. He tampered with an ongoing criminal investigation of the assassination of the President of the United States and took a bullet from the limousine and put it on JFK's stretcher at Parkland Hospital. And he didn't tell anybody. He didn't tell anyone, Wayne. Now he's coming out 60 years later and telling people that he's the one that placed the magic bullet.
That's screwed up, man.
And the Warren Commission used that bullet that was found on the stretcher of JFK to...
Well, that was their primary evidence.
But it was fake. It was planted.
You know, this is sometimes how I wake up. I'm going, all right, is it really real? Or is this, like the rat said, forget the cheese, just get me the hell out of the trap.
And that's to keep it could, because with that information, if that information is true from Paul Landis, then that means that everyone has to go back and re-examine all of the theories that have come out so far, just like what me and Jay Weiner did with our documentary, JFK Solving the Crime of the Century. We made people re-examine what they believed happened around the assassination of JFK. But now this piece of evidence, me and Jay think that it was in direct retaliation from our film.
I would say you're probably spot on with that.
And they did that to shift the focus to, because that's what we were trying to do with our film, was to try and destroy all of the other previous conspiracy theories that are 100% wrong.
Yeah.
Right? But then Paul Landis comes out and he's already got a book deal that's going to come out in October surrounding the magic bullet that he planted, which is tampering with evidence. He should be prosecuted. But that is the thing that's going to make everyone re-examine the JFK assassination, not our film, right? They had to divert it a little bit and make it about something different. But
it's an award-winning. It's going to get an award. I'm just telling you.
I hope so. We applied it for the a few film festivals, so hopefully it gets.
How about South by Southwest?
Yes, that is the one that we applied for.
Yeah, all right, buddy. Okay, well, Ryder, thank you, man. I mean, this has just been freaking. This has been one of the best shows on this topic and this subject matter. Thank you. I can't thank you enough.
Thanks so much, Wayne. Really appreciate you. For
tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at Raised by Giants on YouTube. I'm going to be doing a show here later this evening about the Mexican government unveiling the fake alien bodies at 6 p.m. EST. You are more than welcome to come over to my channel. You'll be welcome there. And the chat is always amazing and filled with good people. And I want to thank the Soul Tribe. And anyway, I haven't been keeping track of the chat because we've been just up here.
It's been flying by.
You had my attention the whole time. Wasn't directed toward anyone else. But thanks everyone that's in the chat on this discussion that me and Wayne had. I appreciate you guys, and always appreciate you, Wayne. You've helped me a lot during the inception of my channel, and always have my love and respect, my friend.
Thank you. It's guilty as charged. I didn't do it. Someone else did.
It was the evil extraterrestrial ball statue.
Exactly. It was my doppelganger, Oh, Ryder, man, I'll tell you, you are a joy and just a delight, and look forward to having you back on again. And thank you. And for everyone that's listening, I mean, I've been watching the count. It really spiked really up there. So Thanks, everyone. Let us know what you think of the show. Give us a comment. Thank you, everyone in the chat room and all the moderators. Y'all are just the best. And we'll see each other this time tomorrow. Ryder, and then make sure to check out his channel, which I think it's going to be 5 o'clock my time, maybe. Yeah, 4 o'clock your time. Yeah, yeah. So be there or be square. All right. Much love, everyone. Until we meet again.